Broadcasting live from the Fentress County Courthouse in Jamestown, Tennessee. Charles Van Morgan live. It's the Charles Van Morgan Show, broadcasting in the morning. We have been all night up here to Fentress County in Jamestown, Tennessee. We're staying at the courthouse. We're covering the news here. Talked to some citizens in Fentress County at the local Stop and Rob, and we are investigating the state's overturning of an election in Fentress County. So Michael Reagan was the sheriff here in Fentress County and allegedly falsified government records, and he was charged with a crime by Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the governor's investigative agency. So we are here at the courthouse covering that and looking into what people say up here happened. You don't know really what happened until you talk to people with the boots on the ground at the area. So we're here at the Fentress County Sheriff's Office. Charles Van Morgan live in the morning. Come on board. And thank y'all very much. So we'll get a few people in here, and we're talking about the Fentress County Sheriff, Michael Reagan, who was charged with a crime here in Fentress County. And we're covering that live, boots on the ground. I drove all night up here to talk to citizens up here to find out what's going on. We talked to a few, and we're reporting live up here at close to the Sheriff's Department at the county courthouse in Jamestown, Tennessee. And we're talking about how the state of Tennessee is overturning an election of citizens here in Fentress County. So we're right here at the Sheriff's Department. Thank y'all. Come on board. Charles Van Morgan. We might not have too many viewers because of the fact that it is coming up on the holiday. Charles Van Morgan Show, live in the morning. So there's Jamestown City Police. We are broadcasting live at the County Sheriff's Department at the county courthouse in Fentress County, covering the criminal charges of Michael Reagan, the former sheriff who's been forced to resign over allegations by the governor's TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. That's the governor's law enforcement agency. He's actually the sheriff over the state because he has two law enforcement agencies. Actually, he's got several. He has the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, which is his detectives that work for the state, and he's also got the Tennessee Highway Patrol. So he's actually the sheriff over the state. And Michael Reagan was sheriff, duly elected twice in 2018, 2024, over Fentress County, a rural county of about 20,000 people. And TBI came down here and alleged that he falsified government documents relating to the training of his detective. He alleged that his deputy had training, and the state alleges that he falsified those documents, that his detective did not get that training. And they have charged him criminally with falsifying government records. And we want to compare that and talk to you about what's really happened. Came up here, boots on the ground, talked to citizens about that here in Fentress County. You don't ever know what's really happening, and we've talked to a few until you have boots on the ground up here. And we explained to them our perspective, and they agreed with us. And we're going to explain to you what this is all about, what this is really about. And if you'll hang on, we'll explain it to you. And also the discrepancy in how they handle a small rural county with 20,000 voters as opposed to a major metropolitan area in Knox County where they have a Sheriff Tom Spangler who committed a similar offense and was not charged with any crime. And his deputy, Jerry Glenn, who was not trained, didn't have the appropriate training. Neither one of them were charged with a crime in a major area with a whole lot of voters and a very popular Republican in Tennessee, as opposed to a small rural county where the government in the state of Tennessee, the high sheriff over Tennessee imposes his will on people, and in spite of people doing similar offenses, depending on who has more politics than another person. So I believe this is more about politics, crooked politics, than it is about committing a crime. Because if it is in fact about committing a crime, then why did they not charge Tom Spangler in Knox County and his deputy that didn't have the appropriate training, that was doing search warrants and doing raids that involved a high risk to human life without proper training, which is much more serious than a paperwork area that we have here in Fentress County. Why wasn't he charged? Because there's more voters in Knox County, and it's harder for them to justify a more popular sheriff. There would have been a lot of backlash on the high sheriff, which is High Bills Lee. So, and also Governor Lee, not only does he condone criminal acts in his law enforcement agencies, in the Tennessee Highway Patrol, I know for a fact he promotes people that commit criminal acts, and there is no oversight or even criminal charges against criminals in the Highway Patrol. They are in fact promoted. So there is more than a double standard. There's people that are allegedly committing criminal acts, the same acts in other counties, and then there is criminal acts that have harmed society going on in the State Highway Patrol, and those people aren't even charged and removed from office. They are promoted to higher level offices. So the state government is not about law enforcement. The state law enforcement agencies and the state government is not about law enforcement. TBI has shown people here in Fentress County that when a TBI agent comes to town, you worship their boots. You pay attention to them. They can get your sheriff's job. They can do whatever they want to do. They are people in this town, in this city, in this royal area, Fentress County, that you will obey or you will pay with your jobs and your lives. And that's what this is about. It's a power struggle. It has little to nothing to do with criminal acts. Because if it did, they would charge people who commit criminal acts with the state government. Instead of picking on a small county, and we're going to tell you what they said up here in Fentress County, that some of a couple of citizens that I talked to. So we've driven all night to boots on the ground covering this story in Fentress County. It is a big deal, and should be a big deal to you all. It is the overturning of an election. A duly elected sheriff, elected twice, has resigned due to pressure from Governor Bill Lee and his Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. And it is a power struggle, not about criminal activity, in my opinion and in my news reporting, and that's what I'm going to report. And that's what I'm explaining. Let's see how many people we got in here, and I'll explain to you how in Knox County, similar, worse incident happened, sheriff not charged. In Fentress County, a smaller place, a paperwork error, and the sheriff charged, and who's really behind all this, and then stuff they do in the state government. So we're here at the Sheriff's Department and the county courthouse in Fentress County. Drove all night to be up here, boots on the ground, talk to citizens. And if you hold on, we're going to tell you what the citizens said up here in Fentress County. You're watching Charles Van Morgan Live, news, unbridled news. The state government's not holding me down. I got the Constitution that protects me from their bullets, hopefully. Now, if something happens to me, y'all know what happened. It's Governor Bill Lee, the Christian man. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just telling you the truth. Reporting truthful stuff against their power can get you killed. Now, that's not a lot of people want to hear that, but that's the truth. So I'm risking my life to report to you the real truth about this incident that you won't hear on the regular news. You won't hear this stuff. They won't print this stuff because they're in with the power. The regular news is in with the power. So let's see how many people got on here. That's what we're going to discuss today. Boots on the ground, and we're here talking to citizens in the area. So let's see what we got in here. Thank you all very much for showing up. So yeah, we got over 100 people in here. Thank you all for watching. And Well, let's see if you have any questions. Yes, it is. So, okay, got Old Glory in here. Thank you for coming, Old Glory. We appreciate your obscenity. Are you still ranting about this? Grandpa Simpson still going crazy. Okay, let's see. Crazy. I have a high level of education, a doctor of jurisprudence. I know how to do investigative work. I've got a Master of Arts in sociology, so I know how things really work. And I know social pressure can try to get you from uncovering the truth. So you must be a state government bot. That's not going to work. I mean, if that's all you got, peer pressure to call me names and stuff, it's not going to work. I'm talking about people's lives. If you think that's funny, if you think that's a joke, something to call people crazy about, then you are out of your mind. It's not going to stop a real journalist from printing the truth. But thank you for your comment. It helps me. And helps me put out the the truth of this. And so we're reporting live. Let's see if it's still raining. We're reporting live. Okay, it slowed down a little bit. From Jamestown, Tennessee. You seen the screenshot. Now, the TBI came down here. They began investigating this in March because of an incident that occurred last year where Sheriff Reagan allegedly falsified government documents saying that his detective went through law enforcement training that according to TBI he didn't go through, and the sheriff signed off on that, and they got money from the state and didn't go through the state required training, the mandated state training from the state of Tennessee. And TBI came down here investigating that. I don't know how they got reports of that. And they looked into it. I guess they've got copies of documents, and they have decided that the chief detective didn't go through the training and that the sheriff signed off on it and indicted him and charged him with criminal charges relating to that incident because he falsified documents and they didn't go through the training that he was supposed to. And they've charged him criminally. Now, I talked to citizens here. They said that the sheriff was arrested, and when he was arrested, they said that he spent 29 minutes getting booked. And they think that is very unfair because if a citizen, you or I, get arrested, we do more than 29 minutes. And I know for a fact when I ran against the Governor High Bills Lee, that avoids taxes, when I was arrested for running against him for speaking truth to power, I was taken off the campaign, taken away from asking citizens to vote for me, telling the truth about the alleged Christian governor. I was locked up off the campaign trail, not from committing any crime. They've admitted to that they cleared my record and dropped the charges. They've admitted I didn't commit any crime. I was taken off the campaign trail for about 8 hours. So I wasn't allowed to knock on doors and ask people to vote for me for 8 hours running against the governor. Now, if I'd had $1 million in my pocket, like Governor has been and Governor Lee, that he's gotten your money from you. They got your money. It's not even their money. Then I would have been allowed to campaign. And that's the way they run things. Now, I'll tell you what's going on here. It's not about a crime being committed. It's about a paperwork error. If it was about a crime being committed, then why in the hell in Knox County, Tom Spangler, the sheriff, over a bigger area? This area is 20,000 people. Knox County has probably close to 1 million people in the Knox County area. So that's a lot of voters, a lot more political clout from the sheriff if he cries foul. If this sheriff up here cries foul, he's got 20,000 voters. Not enough to affect the election. So he doesn't have any political clout. So the governor can do whatever he wants to do in Fentress County. He can enforce his will on 20,000 voters. Your vote doesn't matter in Fentress County. It doesn't. I hate to tell you that. I tell people to vote, voters of Tennessee and Rage. But the truth is, your vote doesn't matter up here. It doesn't, because the real high sheriff of Tennessee, the Christian governor, Bill Lee, wiped all your votes away and took the sheriff out of office here in Fentress County. It's not about a paperwork error. It's about who's in power in the state government and them sending a message, sending the propaganda. You will do exactly what we tell you, exactly when we tell you to, or we'll take your jobs. When a TBI agent comes down to Fentress County goes into one of these offices in Fentress County, they're going to bend over backwards to do everything the governor has told that TBI agent to tell Fentress County to do. Right or wrong, legal or illegal, he's showing them who's in power down here, because he just made a power move removing a 2-time elected sheriff. It's a power move, has nothing to do with the criminal act. If it had anything to do with the criminal act, in Knox County, Jerry Glenn, a deputy sheriff with the Knox County Sheriff's Department that did not have the appropriate training, admitted by the sheriff, did raids, and he wasn't trained how to do the raids. He wasn't trained in how to conduct them according to the law, didn't go through the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy, didn't have the appropriate certification, but he was a big funder. He funded Tom Spangler's campaign. So Tom Spangler lets his deputy do any damn thing he wants to. He can go raid your house, even though he don't know the Constitution, if he wants to. It has nothing to do with training. So Tom Spangler did pretty much the same thing in a bigger county, but he's got more politics. He's got politics with about 1 million voters in that area. This sheriff up here doesn't have the politics. So anything he does, the governor knows he can send a message down here. He's not powerful enough to send a message in Knox County. Knox County has a lot of Democratic voters. So the governor would have faced a lot of pushback by removing the Knox County sheriff for committing the same offense. Now, they collected money up here in Fentress County from the state. When they went through training, they get amount of money for going through the state training. And they got that money, and it's alleged by Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, alleged by the governor that they didn't get that training, and they got the money, and they weren't trained in what they were supposed to do, didn't go through the state legislative procedures, the required training, like the Vanessa Free Cade Act and a lot of acts passed by the legislature that forces their will on these smaller counties. So they charged him, took his job from the citizens here. Complained that he only spent 29 minutes in jail getting booked, which is a problem in itself. When I explained to them my perspective, they agreed with me too, that it's really not about Michael Reagan committing a crime. It's about the sheriff, the real sheriff, the high sheriff, Bill Lee. He's the sheriff over the THP and TBI. In effect, is about him pulling his power move on a small county, telling them who's the boss, showing what's happened, send that message all over the state. It's about the Christian governor saying, look what I can do, listen to me, in a small rural county. But in Knox County, where Tom Spangler did the same damn thing, had a deputy untrained doing raids without any law enforcement training, without learning the Constitution, actually more dangerous than what this sheriff did. It was a paperwork error up here. It was more than a paperwork error in Knox County. It was a sheriff that was untrained, unqualified according to state regulations, conducting raids on people holding a gun in their face, telling them to obey the sheriff that wasn't trained, didn't know the person's rights. So which one is more dangerous? This was a paperwork error. Tom Spangler committed a error that could harm, endanger people's lives. But there's more people in Knox County, over 1 million voters, and 20,000 here. So the governor can put his will on people here. He would have had a little pushback in Knox County with Spangler, because there's a lot of Democratic voters, and there's also a lot of voters that support Tom Spangler, and they would have pushed back, and it would have cost the governor some trouble. But there's no pushback here, but I'm pushing back here. I'm pushing back hard, because I'm going to tell you the truth about it. Has nothing to do with a paperwork error. It has to do with the governor pushing his power. Because up here, and I'm going to tell you the difference, up here you have a paperwork error. They could have gave this sheriff time to come in compliance with the law, to have his deputy come in compliance with the law, like they did in Knox County. They didn't do that. They charged him criminally. They didn't charge Spangler. Why didn't they charge Spangler criminally? Spangler admitted that he committed a crime. He admitted that he committed a violation, which I think is a crime because he covered it up, because it's a supporter of his, and he endangered people's lives in Knox County. Imagine that. The man over safety, over public safety in Knox County, endangered people's lives. Now, he claims to be a Christian, so God's going to judge me for saying that, right? Well, I'm real scared. God's not on people's sides that lie just because they got the power to lie and their lies don't affect them, but it affects the public. It's what I'm concerned about, and that's what I'm for. When your lie affects the public, then you deal with Charles Van Morgan on the planet. Now, you might deal with God later, and I pray that you deal with him on the planet. Spangler did much worse than Reagan, and Spangler got benefited from political campaigns to the guy that he let do a raid. The man that he let do a raid that wasn't trained contributed to his political campaign. So it's all about money and power. It has nothing to do with criminals. So there, you have those two instances. And then the state government, under the real high sheriff, Sheriff Bill Lee, because he's over 2 law enforcement agencies, actually more than 2 because he's over the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. So he's more powerful than any sheriff in the state of Tennessee, more law enforcement agencies, more guns, more weapons, more everything. And under his sheriffship, under his governorship, let's look at the crimes that he has committed, the things that he's doing in comparison to this sheriff up here in Fentress County, Jamestown, Tennessee. What he has done, and it is not good, and I talk to citizens, and I'll tell you what they think about it. And compared to Knox County, where nothing was done, the sheriff apologized. Tom Spangler said, "I'm sorry. I know I made a mistake. I'm sorry. It was an oversight." Why couldn't they let this sheriff say it was an oversight? They didn't let him. They charged him with a crime, stick him with a crime. 20,000 voters is all. They can deal with that. And they want to send a message that we're powerful. It's a power move. It's a power message. It has little to nothing, and they're the beautiful church bells. It has little to nothing to do with a crime. Why didn't they let this sheriff, Michael Reagan, come in compliance with the law like they did Tom Spangler? It's 20,000 voters compared to several million. And they wanted to send a message here when a TBI agent comes to town, and they even send that message to Knox County. We can here. We're probably not going to because you got a lot of power, but we can do that here if we want to. If we damn well please, we'll do that in Knox County. And they did it in Fentress County, so just keep that in mind when a TBI agent walks in the county courthouse, how powerful they can be. They can do it, and they will do it. So it's about a power move. It's about respecting the unrespectable, the governor's THP and the governor's TBI and the governor's Wildlife Resources Agency. That's what it's about, respecting his power, not about a crime, because they should have let this man come in compliance. They didn't, because he doesn't have a lot of political support. And in Knox County, Tom Spangler has enough political support to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, oops." But he doesn't even get charged with a crime. Now, here's what and then let's talk about the state government. Let's talk about the dirty governor. Let's talk about what he does in his sheriffship, just like these people do, and compare. It's much worse what the dirty governor, Bill Lee, does, and stands behind Christian and does it. And so the people that I talked to, they wanted to remain unnamed, and they didn't want to be on camera. I understand that. At a local convenience store, one of the only ones open. This is a small rural area. Beautiful place, beautiful place. God bless you people up here in Jamestown. I got 8 votes up here in Jamestown, one of the highest counties. I got everyone that voted for me in Jamestown. Thank you all so very much. God bless you in Fentress County. You all are wonderful people. If I run again, hopefully you'll vote for me again. Watch Charles Van Morgan Unbridled News and share this story. And I listened to your side, and your side was, I talked to a couple of people, and they said that the sheriff, when he was arrested, only did 29 minutes. Somebody must have been timing it, in jail getting booked and processed. Which, if you or me or another citizen, you're going to do 29 minutes, yeah, right, it's going to be a heck of a lot longer than 29 minutes. So he got special treatment. He did get charged. The governor sent him a message, but he got special treatment, didn't he? I mean, you're going to do a hell of a lot more time than that. And I bet he didn't even pay a bond. So he got treated better. They were concerned about that. They don't think that's fair. So it's common knowledge. It's common knowledge that people in power in the government get better treatment unjustifiably than citizens. Citizens ought to be out in 29 minutes. I have no problem with the governor being out with the sheriff here, Michael Reagan, being booked and processed in 29 minutes. I think that's wonderful. I think that's great. That's the way it ought to be. The problem I have is that you're not in and out in 29 minutes. You ought to get that same treatment. It ought to be that fast too. And you ought to get out without a bond too, unless you've done something violent and dangerous, a paperwork error or a minor crime. You ought to be out fast. The thing is, they don't treat us the same. So I'm preaching to the choir. You all know that they don't treat us the same. So they just pointed that out to me, and I'm like, yeah, that's right. Now they believe that if he's committed a crime, people are smart and people are fair and people are right about things. They believe that if he's committed a crime, that he should be charged with a crime. So they think that's justified. They think he's probably done something wrong and he should have been charged with a crime. Now I don't know about resigning from the sheriff's department. That was his own decision. But they're not unreasonable. They listen to the news and talk to people, and they think that his being charged was appropriate. That he did wrong, just like anybody could have done wrong, and he got charged for wrong. And that's what at least one person believes. And another person I explained to him, and that's what he said, they know that people in government power aren't treated the same. And what he said, the other person there, when I explained to him my take on it, because I'm unbiased, unbridled news, but I do have a bias. It's a bias from knowledge. I'm not a novice. I've been here, done that, got a cookie for it. I know how the state operates. They're crooked as hell. They're dirtier than the people that they police, and that's what I'm policing. That's what my journalism is about policing, not the police, policing the people in power over the police. So they believe he should have been charged. I think that he should have been given the opportunity to correct his wrong. I don't agree with that citizen that said that. I think he should have been allowed to correct and come up to the state standards if the person that his deputy wasn't trained, they should have been able to bring him up to the state standards. Now the governor, what he does, and he's over the TBI and all this, he promotes people that commit crime. He promotes people that commit obvious crimes of perjury. So the other person, when I explained to him that it's a power move by the governor, and I explained to him how in Knox County, Tom Spangler did the same thing with Jerry Glenn, not having appropriate state level training, and he actually participated in serving a warrant, a high risk, high dangerous situation. So that is much worse than somebody that has been trained before but didn't get the update training every year, because he knows the stuff. He just had to have the update training. And some of the update training, quite frankly, is baloney. You don't even need it. It's political training. I mean, when I was in the Highway Patrol Academy, we had an incident where a dog was shot by a Cookeville police officer. They had a car going down the road, and money coming off the top of the car, where people in the car had laid their money on the top of the car, and when they took and forgot it, and then when they took off down the road, money was flying off the top of the car. So somebody called in on them, and they thought it was a robbery of a convenience store. So the call came out at apparent robbery, and a trooper and a Cookeville police officer found the car, and so they did a felony stop because they thought it was some type of robbery, money coming off the top of the car. So they did a felony stop. They stopped the car on I-40, and the Cookeville officer got out, and they get him on the PA, and they told him to open the door. And when they opened the door of the car, a little puppy dog come out running around the car, and the Cookeville officer told the dog to stop, and the dog didn't stop, and it was wagging its tail, completely peaceful. And the Cookeville officer used his shotgun and just blew the dog to smithereens. It blew him out of hell. And the trooper was on the scene, but he didn't shoot the dog. And the family was very upset. I mean, he shot their pet, and anybody would be. A horrific incident, shot their pet. And so after that incident, it received national attention. And this is how politics, stupid politics. the highway patrol that next year in service, we had to have training on how to treat dogs. And you know, I know dogs' lives are important, but it's about 8 hours of training on how to deal with a dog so you don't shoot and blow a dog to smithereens. And that's completely political. You could go over in 2 minutes why you shouldn't shoot a dog with a wagging tail, and that animals are important too. And I know that's horrific that happened, but that doesn't require 8 hours of dog training. And that's what the state did. They mandated 8 hours of dog training where we had to learn. And I still remember the way you do a dog when they approach you in a violent manner is you look at the dog and then you turn sideways. And that was the training, and 8 hours of that the state mandated. And if you didn't go through that 8 hours training, you were a fraud and you'd get arrested like the sheriff here, and you'd go to jail. So that's part of the training with the state government is completely political, completely useless and baseless, and probably will get officers killed if they obey that training. I remember when I was going through the training, another officer said that's a bunch of baloney. If I've got to shoot a dog to protect my life, then I'm going to shoot a dog, and if somebody wants to sue me later, they can sue me later. My life's important. I'm not going to get dog bit. I'm not going to try all this rigmarole to try to get a barking violent dog, and you know the difference. Because one officer in Cookeville messed up. I mean, a dog coming at you wagging his tail, it's not a violent dog. You don't have to figure that out. Do they have to have 8 hours of in-service training to teach people that? And they literally changed the law, mandated in-service training. We had to have dog training because one Cookeville officer did something stupid that he shouldn't have done and killed an innocent, harmless little puppy dog. That doesn't require the whole state to change course and mandate that when a violent dog comes charging at you and you know it's going to bite you, a pit bull or something, you have to look at the dog and turn sideways and try not to kill it. And I know any officer worth their weight in gold that has any sense is going to say, you know, I could care less. You can write me up. If a dog comes at me, a pit bull comes at me, trying to hurt me, and I'm not talking about wagging his tail. That's obvious. Then I'm going to blow that dog to hell. And they've killed dogs in Knox County, and they have to sometimes. That's part of it. What is not part of it is the state politicizing that and mandating 8 hours of training for that. And then you get sheriffs like that here that says, baloney, we don't need to go through all that. We got a job to do. We got citizens to protect. I can't waste my time with my chief deputy sitting in a classroom for 8 hours learning not to shoot a dog that's wagging his tail that just wants to be petted. That's common sense. But because the state got involved in it and politics got involved in it, and it was on the national news media, a Cookeville officer shot a dog that they thought was a bank robbery. You look it up, and the state got sued, and so they have this 8 hours of dog training. So obviously sheriffs in their right mind think, you know, I've got children that I need to be protected at these schools. I can't have my detective learning about not to kill a dog when schools are being shot up. So justifiably, I mean, that's really not that bad of a mistake. Let him bring up up to standards and change some of these stupid life-endangering regulations from our state legislators that are putting in politics in every county in the United States, in every county in the state of Tennessee, and probably every county in the United States. Stop some of the baloney, political baloney that costs people's lives. You could have that chief deputy, sitting in a classroom here at the sheriff's department in Fentress County, studying about how not to shoot a dog with a wagging tail. He knows that. He's probably been out on a lot of dog calls. And you know the difference between one that's trying to bite you and hurt you and one that's wagging its tail. The Cookeville officer didn't. So you change all the laws all across the state of Tennessee just because that and mandate 8 hours of dog training. And that's what the sheriff's probably getting out. So you could have had that, getting the deputy out. You could have had that detective sitting in a classroom learning about not killing a dog while somebody was down the street shooting up a school because he had to be in a classroom to satisfy what the governor politically wants him to do. Now that's not safe and that's not right. And that's how they put their power plays. Now, I don't know what the real reason is behind it, but I know what citizens think. If he committed a crime, then that's fine. When I explained to them about the power play, about how they did that in Knox County and violated the rules of training in Knox County, And the sheriff apologized and no criminal charges, and because it's a county of about 1 million people, and how here in Fentress County in Jamestown, they force their will on you because it's a small county, so they run over you. It's about politics, about a power move, not about a paper error. They said that makes sense, and I think that you're right. So they agreed with me when I explained it to them. So getting out public information about how crooked the state is matters. And I also explained to them another thing that they seem to understand, how at the very top, where there is no oversight other than the public, other than voters, and you all need to vote. We need to get rid of the top. You don't do any good by getting rid of the tail. The tail, the top will grow another tail. They could care less. Get rid of the top. Get rid of the governor's office by voting, not violence, nonviolent voting. So when you have people in the state government that commit crimes under oath in law enforcement, I'm not talking about not going to training that they don't believe they need in the first place. I'm talking about committing crimes of fraud and perjury that I have documented in my videos. And then because they lie for the governor, they not only not get charged, they get promoted for lying. So you have the highest rate of criminal activity at the highest levels in state government. You don't hear anybody else say that. Charles Van Morgan, Unbridled News. You have a small paperwork error in this county. And the state is saying we'll commit any damn crime we want to commit anytime we want to commit it. And we'll get it through our rogue, dirty judges, but we'll come down here to Fentress County and say we're taking the high road. You got to dot your I's and cross your T's, but we don't have to. It's a double and triple standard. We do whatever we want to, anytime we want to, and we are benefited by our criminal acts. And you better make sure you go to that damn dog training, or we'll put your hind end in jail. Howbeit for 29 minutes you're going and your job's gone. Now that's sending a message. That is not about wrongdoing or criminality. That is sending a message. I am in charge of the state of Tennessee. I'm the governor. My TBI has a lot of power. They'll take your job from you. So when they come to town, you listen to every damn word they say. And people do. They fear the TBI. They fear THP, not because they're out for public safety, because they'll get your job and take your life from you if they so choose to, if you don't get on board. And that's what this is about. It's a power play. It's a power play from the governor, from the quote unquote Christian governor that campaigned in a church, without mentioning the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. So that ought to tell you a lot, because we have no church without the Lord Jesus Christ. So we all die and go to hell, if you ask me. That's my religious beliefs. But his religious beliefs is in the power of the state government. The most powerful entity on the face of the planet is government. And they do whatever they want to do. So here you have the three different scenarios where you have a sheriff up here, Fentress County, gets gone over paperwork error. Same deal in Knox County under Tom Spangler. He did the same thing, actually much worse, in putting somebody on a serious incident, and untrained. He apologizes, and he doesn't even get charged with a crime, because it's 1 million people in Knox County, and the governor would have trouble if he got rid of a popular sheriff. In Fentress County, you have 20,000 people. He'll run over 20,000 people, won't think a thing about it, because he wants to set a message that he's powerful. And then in the state government, under law enforcement in the state government, you have people that aren't educated. You have people that commit serious crimes that affect the public, that cost them to be dead. The fatality rate in the state of Tennessee has went up 45% since they lied on me and took me off the road and sent a message that it doesn't matter if you protect society. It's not about protecting society. It never is. It's about honoring and lying and worshiping the governor and his entourage, and not prosecuting people that are in government power under him, and leaving the hierarchy alone and prosecuting citizens all day long. All you want to. It's about politics and who's in power. And it's about the elite people having the elite officers in power. So the state highway patrol promotes criminals. in Fentress County, the State Highway Patrol, the criminals they promoted, charge the Fentress County Sheriff. In Knox County, same thing, much worse, and he doesn't even get charged and gets a free ride. So that's the situation. We have citizens here have told me they think that the sheriff was treated differently. 29 minutes. When I explained to them the power move, that I think it's about corruption in the state government saying 95 counties in Tennessee, when a TBI agent comes to town, you better listen to what they tell you to do. You better worship the TBI, because they're the ones that will get your job. And look what they did in Fentress County. It's a power play, a power move. They did the same thing in Monroe County. Sheriff White, they got rid of him in Monroe County in 2014, alleging that he wasn't trained enough. Why don't they do it in the bigger counties? So they're picking on the royal counties. Royal counties, your vote doesn't matter in the governor with the governor. So royal counties get together and vote him out of office. This is voters of truth enraged. We ought to be enraged about the state government, the crimes that they commit, and there's no oversight on them. The only oversight on them is a landslide vote against the governor and against the Republican Party in the state of Tennessee that aren't even really Republicans. Churches, they're lying to you. The Republicans they're not Christian people. They don't act like Christian people in Tennessee. They're lying to you. And they're not Christian. They're saying they're Christian to get the church vote, because there are a lot of churches in Tennessee. That's what the lady told me here. There's a church everywhere in here. This is a Christian community. God bless these people in church. That's good. That's good that there's a lot of Christians in this community. But don't let these people lie to you, using religion to lie to you. They use religion to get votes. It's not about Christianity. It has nothing to do with Christianity. It has to do with power of Governor Haslam and former Governor Haslam and former Governor Bill Lee. So that's the story we have here in Fentress County. And also, let me add this. Now, the legislature passes all these laws, and that's under the state government, and they're political. They're political. A lot of useless, needless training is mandated on small royal counties that don't have the money or the time or the manpower to keep up with all the rules and regulations, the government regulations. I mean, we need some more government regulations. We don't have enough rules, and they don't get rid of rules. Do you ever see them getting rid of rules that are outdated and old? They never get rid of rules. They need an organization, and the governor needs to get rid of rules that don't no longer apply in 2025. And they keep adding new rules and new regulations for counties in the state of Tennessee to comply with that are completely ridiculous, that don't matter, that are dangerous, that take officers off the road, put them in a classroom learning stuff that they don't have no need for, that's not necessary in royal counties, that these officers already know. They've been out on the road for years. They've been protecting people's lives for years. They're battle tested, and then you drag them in a room. The governor says, yeah, that's a good idea. Politically makes me look good. We're going to make them do this. And they keep adding, the legislature keeps adding laws and rules for Royal County Sheriff's Department and Royal County city officers that has to comply with, that make absolutely no sense whatsoever, and they don't even enforce them unless they want to send a message of we're in control and we'll get rid of you any damn time we want to. And that's what they use these rules and regulations for, is to control people. It's not about public safety. It has nothing to do with public safety. If it did, they would charge half the hierarchy in the Tennessee Highway Patrol. They would charge Colonel Matt Perry. I went to the academy with him, the biggest sissy ever walked the planet. His daddy was captain over the class. Every class had to get sprayed with chemical spray because they wanted to show you what it felt like, so that if you got it taken away from you on the road, you would have already experienced it, so you wouldn't panic when you got sprayed in the eyes with it. You had been sprayed in training. Every class got sprayed with chemical spray except for Matt Perry's class, because his dad was the captain over the class, and he protected his little daddy. And that's what the government in Tennessee, it's their little clique at the top, their little hierarchy at the top, and no one pays their dues or has earned anything they got, and they don't have any significant education. If it's about education, what about Major Stacy Heatherly, who has no significant training in emergency management or anything to protect the public that is a major over several areas with Highway Patrol that committed fraud, and we're supposed to rely on her investigations involving wrecks. Their political investigations have nothing to do with the truth. They decide what they want you to believe and then hire people to pay them to say what they want you to believe. That's how the state government is run. Has nothing to do with the truth. The truth doesn't matter to them. It absolutely matters nothing to them. If they don't have the right facts, they lie and add facts. And here in Fentress County, they have removed a sitting duly elected sheriff. Amazing to me. At a minimum, they should have given him the chance to come up to standards in my opinion, and apologize just like they did Spangler in Knox County. Why are they differentiating between these people? And the legislature, they need to wipe out some of these petty rules and regulations that were political, like the dog training, and let officers do their job and quit mandating that they learn stuff and spend 8 hours in a classroom instead of protecting little children that is completely unnecessary for them to do. And it takes time away from law enforcement activities, from protecting the public. Like there's an unlimited amount of resources. There is, because they keep taxing you. And the state government don't even follow their own rules. When I was in the State Highway Patrol Commercial Vehicle Enforcement, we had captains over the scales that were supposed to, in order to keep their level 1 certification over trucks, they were supposed to do 32 level 1 inspections every year themselves. They were supposed to climb under the truck, check the brakes, and do 32 level 1 inspections every year in order to maintain their inspections according to the rules. Now what they did is they had troopers do the inspections for them, and then they would sign off on them. So they did not do their 32 level 1 inspections. So why didn't they charge a bunch of captains that worked at the scales, at the Knox County scales? I know I've seen them do that myself. I never did one for them. A lot of troopers did. They got promoted for that, for doing the work that a supervisor is supposed to do, and they got a certification that they never earned. And so the state does that all the time. Look at the scales. These captains, in order to stay level 1 certified according to the federal standard, are supposed to do 32 level 1 inspections every year. They're supposed to climb under a truck, check the brakes themselves so that they know how to do it, and they've done 32. And they signed off on them, they did them, and they maintain a federal level 1 inspection for truck drivers. I mean, we expect truck drivers to obey the law. If they don't obey the law, they write them an expensive $1,000 ticket. So we should expect our captains with the scales, our higher level officials, to obey the law too, right? Do your 32 a year, get off your hind end, walk out there, get one of those little dollies out and strollers out, and slide under the truck and check the brakes like Charles Van Morgan did when I was in commercial enforcement. The first few are kind of eerie, climbing under a big tractor trailer truck and having them hit their brakes and measuring them, but you do 32 of those every year. Why didn't the captains do that? And they still kept their level 1 certification. It was a federal certification. So they're not just violating state post-commission rules, they were violating federal laws, and they got by with it. They didn't do any 32 inspections. They didn't even do one. Troopers did them for them, and they signed off on them. The same thing that they just took this sheriff's job for, they do it every day toward the end of the year in the Knox County and the state scales. And if a driver gets a few hours off on his time sheet, on his hours, or does something wrong, parks in the wrong place, they're all over them. But they're just little drivers like Haslam in his stores ripped off Hispanic drivers that didn't speak English, and that's the way they do you. That's the power in the state. And here's an example of it. Fentress County Sheriff, 20,000 people, apparently failed to have his chief deputy go through the full training, and they don't give him a chance to make it up. He signed off on it. People in state government commit crimes, felonies of dishonesty that caused you to get killed in the state of Tennessee. They get promoted for lying. This sheriff didn't get promoted. He got charged with a crime. In state government, they get promoted. People at the scales falsify records. Captains falsify records. Don't do the inspections. The federal inspections break federal laws, but nobody charges them. And they commit worse, heinous crimes than this sheriff ever dreamed of committing. And then you have the legislator that's so political. And you have Lionel Russell, that's a legislator. He's over the post commission that sets up these rules that these sheriffs have to obey. Lionel Russell. Now, he committed fraud on me. He is over the agency that says, you're good enough to be a police officer, you got enough training, you're honest enough to be a police officer. This Lionel Russell. I worked for him in the highway patrol. He lied on me. And he is over every police officer in the state. This is state power. That's how they do. It's not state rightness. It's not state goodness. It's not state public safety. It's state power for themselves. Has nothing to do with protecting you. They're not even good at protecting themselves. So he told me one time to come to the scales delivering paperwork because at the end of my shift, because he didn't want to get off his hind end and drive to the Knoxville Post and pick up the paperwork. He wanted me to bring it to him, so I brought it to him. And then the next day he calls me and threatens to write me up in an email documenting that I'd stayed over the shift and that I might have a wreck staying over the shift too long, when he's the one that asked me to do that. Wow, and he is over the post commission. That's Lionel Russell. That's not defamation. That's the truth. Defamation is false communication disseminated to at least a third party, unprivileged false communication disseminated to at least a third party that tends to lower somebody in the stand in the community. Now, this is communication. It's not privileged. I'm not a judge. They can defame you falsely all day long behind the courtroom. That's why they do it. They've legislated themselves. They've adjudicated themselves above the law. That's another problem. My communication about Lionel Russell is defamatory. It is communication that tends to lower him in the stand in the community, communicated to 1.7 million people now. Hello, Lionel Russell, over the post commission. What a heinous, sad thing that is. That they care so little about public safety that they put somebody that lies like that over police officers, and so horrific. And he is one of them that decides whether this sheriff should keep his post commission when he's a liar, when he rigs stuff. I mean, that's the state. It's state power. It doesn't have anything to do with the state wanting to protect the citizens in Tennessee. The Christian governor does not want to protect you. If he did, then he would start enforcing the law in his agency, in his sheriff's agency, which is Tennessee Highway Patrol and TBI, and start firing people instead of promoting people that lie for him and for the former Governor Haslam. So they need to start getting rid of some of the rules in the post commission. Useless, needless political rules. They don't need 8 hours of dog training. And a lot of other mandates that they have, and a lot of other rules are completely political, from nationwide influence on America, on the state of Tennessee, which makes no difference, and control little rural areas like this. Y'all are just pushed around and made to do whatever you want to do. And hello, Merry Christmas, and we're gonna get to that. So, like, share, comment, and if you can, subscribe to the channel. We're almost up to 3,000 subscribers. We got close to 1.7 million viewers. We drove all night up here to Fentress County to talk to people on the ground and presenting live stories all over the state. Truthful, unbridled news from an educated, life-lived perspective. And I'll just tell you the truth, I'm not afraid of these people. And they need to be afraid of us. There's more of us than there is them. Fentress County, let's not vote for the next Republican candidate that runs for governor. They're running over you. Run back over them with your votes. Send a message. And to those 8 people that voted for me here in Fentress County, thank y'all so very much. If I run again, hopefully I'll get 20,000 votes. I'm not sure. I'm not saying I will. Contribute to the channel, share, like, and subscribe. Let's get this message out. We can beat these people. Vote. Voters of truth and rage. Fentress County, they wiped your votes out. Send them the message in the governor's race that you're not going to put up with the governor's office coming down here to your county and telling you who your sheriff ought to be, because you elected a sheriff that the governor, his TBI, got rid of, sending a message, we're in charge. Show them who's really in charge. We, the people in the state of Tennessee, are in charge, not you. So get rid of some of these rogue people in the state government that lie, the post commission. And Larry Russell, they haven't taken my post commission away from me. It has expired due to time, but as far as I know, I could still be a police officer in the state of Tennessee, although I have no no desire to do that because it is too dangerous to be a police officer right now because of people like Lionel Russell and people in state government in charge that will try to ruin your life. And they have tried to kill me in more ways than one, putting a hit on me through the news articles, and also defamation against me. Because what I say against Larry Russell is communication tends to lower him in the standing community, communicated to at least a third person, but it is truth. The defense to defamation is the truth. And their defense to defamation against me in their courts is their privilege. It's privileged communication. So they can say false stuff about you, and that's what they've done to me in court. They've used the court process to say we lied about him. They won't admit that, but they did. But we're telling the truth, which is, yeah, right. Let's vote these judicial people out of office too. Anybody in office now, with a few exceptions, vote them out. Send a message in Tennessee. We're not happy with you. Also wanted to mention, and I'll go ahead and say it, this is Christmas Eve. You know, the battle's already been won because of who was born on Christmas Day. So I'm not upset, and I'm perfectly content. We still have to fight this battle on the earth. There's evil, wicked people on the face of this planet in government on the earth. We still got to fight this battle. The ultimate battle is the Lord's, is the Lord Jesus Christ. And Christmas Eve is a very good day. It's Christmas Day, celebrating the birth of the Lord Jesus Christ, which I believe in. So the battle's been won. All you got to do is accept that free gift into your heart. But we still have a battle on the ground in the state of Tennessee against people that lie and use Christianity to perpetrate their illicit power. Happened in the Bible times. People buying and selling outside the temple. That's the same thing they're doing in the government power right now, telling you they're Christian to get power. Money is synonymous. Power is synonymous with money. That's exactly what they're doing. They're lying to you, church across Tennessee. Your job is to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and perpetrate people that are going to give you that right to do that, which is me. Make the Constitution, enforce the Constitution, people's right to speak out. They don't want me to speak out. They don't want me to speak out against them. And I am, and that is my right. And I'll exercise my right. Even if you don't like that right, that's my right. And even if I don't like what you say, it's your right to say that too. Because God gave us the right to think and reason. Now, some people think and reason wrong, and our state government in Tennessee thinks and reasons wrongly. They're lying to you, and I'm pointing that out. Charles Van Morgan, Unbridled News, live boots on the ground here in Fentress County, Jamestown, Tennessee. I love Christmas, the birth of the Lord Jesus Christ, best holiday of all the holidays. And we have a lot to look forward to. Thank you all so very much for joining the show. Wow, we've got almost 200 people in here. So we will go all across the state. If you have any ideas about news shows or what's going on in the state, then fill out the survey. You can do it anonymously. We'll be glad to look at any stories that y'all got. We've already got a few in the books that we're going to talk about. A prosecutor in another county that, thanks to one of our viewers, asked us about this prosecutor, and we got some information on him. Graduated from the same law school as me. He's on the wrong side of politics though. So we thank you all so much. This would not be possible without you all. We've contacted close to 1.7 million people. The message is getting out. It's not going to slow down. It's going to speed up. You know, I watched Jelly Roll last night, and he's a country singer. He went to all the record companies trying to get some of his records published. He was in and out of jail, admitted that he had drug issues and addictions, and went to several record companies. And if you can, watch this movie, and it's on YouTube. And no one would give him a chance because he was big, fat, overweight. But he worked on singing, and he was a rapper, worked on singing, hard work, dedication, he says, pays off. And he kept trying, and he downloaded a video on YouTube, and it went viral. And then the record company started calling him But he didn't go through the established procedures. The established procedures, the record companies wouldn't listen to him. And he's got an awesome song and an awesome testimony and trusting God. And so we don't need the establishment to get this message out. They will be calling us. Mark her down. They will be calling us because we are very popular. And it's not me, it's all of y'all that are listening to the truth. Thank the good Lord in heaven. Evidently, the truth has weight and value, and we appreciate it. Thank you all so very much for watching the show. Help us reach 1.7 million people. Like, subscribe, comment. And when you're celebrating Christmas, the birth of Jesus Christ, that's the first mission of Vote, to make a world, a Tennessee, where we can spread the gospel. They're taking away our constitutional rights. The governor is. The Christian governor's taking away your constitutional rights. The Christian governor passed a law where you can't leave a Christian tract on somebody's doorstep without them asking you for it, even if they don't have a no trespassing sign. And you can't do that anymore. He says it's littering. I don't think that's the case. I think you should be able to do that. And the Christian governor's done that. Now, he didn't tell you he was going to do that when he ran for governor, did he? So thank you all so very much. And may God bless you all, I pray. God's on our side. We won't fear what man can do to you. Broadcasting live, boots on the ground in Fentress County, Tennessee, Jamestown. Drove all night to get here. We've got wonderful reception. Thank y'all so much. We probably will not broadcast on Christmas Day. Pretty much everything's closed. If some major news events happen, we'll try to show up on the scene. And to all the people that I love, you know who you are. Sitting at home right now, you're first place in my life on the planet. And a very Christian person whom I love very much with all my heart. And she knows who I'm talking to. So thank you all so very much for listening. We're going to keep fighting the truth. And it ain't pretty for the state. Put out propaganda, drop truth bombs that go against them, that they've demoralized themselves. We're just pointing how immoral and demoralizing they are. In recap, Fentress County Sheriff charged with a crime, had to resign. Elected sheriff removed from his office from citizens here. Knox County Sheriff did the same damn thing, actually much worse. He apologized, he's still the sheriff. The state has criminals that commit crimes for the government in their mafia. They promote them. They don't demote them, they promote them. So you have high-confluting criminals at the top of THP. You have people that make paperwork errors that are put in jail, and people in bigger counties in Knox County that do stuff worse, that send officers untrained on warrants where they point guns in people's face without any training significant, says they're sorry. And it's not about crimes. It's not about public safety. It's about the high sheriff in Tennessee, Governor Bill Lee, under the Christian banner, showing who's in charge in Tennessee. It's about power. It's a power play. Has nothing to do with the safety of the public. You've been listening to Charles Van Morgan, Unbridled News, live on the street. And as I always say, God loves you, and I do too. Thank you very much. Until next time.